This is the Hotel Kazimierz 2, the place where the Mercer tourist group stayed in 2019 when we were in Krakow. What we're doing is we're going to be walking through the Jewish ghetto of Krakow, the historic ghetto, not the World War II ghetto, but the one that was created and existed for hundreds of years before World War II. King Kazimierz, who lived in Wawel Castle just up the road, which you can see somewhat, invited Jews to Poland in the 14th and the 15th century. In the 1400s and the 1500s, he didn't let them live in the walled city, but he let them exist and live in a neighborhood just to the just outside the walls in an area called Kazimierz, which is after him. And this is the area where we're going to be walking through today, Kazimierz, the Jewish district, the Jewish ghetto of Krakow from the 1400s until World War II. It's also interesting because this is not the place where the Jews were kept in a ghetto during World War II. However, because it's such a historic neighborhood, it looks still like it did back in the 1930s and 40s. Oskar Schindler, the movie Schindler's List, was actually filmed here. So when you see the movie Schindler's List, Steven Spielberg made the movie based on this neighborhood, and the real ghetto was across the river, which is a different walking tour. I want to start off down this block here with the Galicia Jewish Museum, which is a relatively new museum. But before we do that, I'm just going to show you some of the things. We'll be walking up that street in a little bit. This is the old synagogue. This is the back of it. It's also a fortress. We'll talk about that more, but this is the back side of it, which is the fortress of the synagogue. As you can see. The fortress part. And just up the street here is the Galicia Jewish Museum. The Jewish Museum actually is more about the present than the past, or the more recent history than the World War II or before that. Most of them is photographs of the city, items, some restored items of the city. It's got a good bookstore and cafe. I went there in 2019 with the Auschwitz group that I was with. This opened up in 2004. It was opened by a British photojournalist named Christopher Schwartz. He was the son of a Polish Jew. When it opened up, Prince Charles was here to help open it up in 2004. The Galicia Jewish Museum, as you see. The mural on the wall of the building. Very nice museum. Closed today, closed right now still. So, very nice inside. So we're going to go over here now to the old synagogue. Go back to where we just walked. Lots of stuff in this neighborhood. The old synagogue, which you see the back of somewhat, is the largest synagogue in Krakow and the oldest synagogue in Krakow. It was built in the Middle Ages. That's, the 1400s. On the left is the part of the construction of the old town wall, the fortress. People walk their dogs now in this area. That's part of the old Kazimierz wall. take a left turn and go up to the, if you watch the movie Schindler's List, some very familiar places coming up in a few minutes. This is Soroka Street, up here to the right. Soroka Street was where a lot of the filming for the movie Schindler's List, in the ghetto at least, the outside ghetto, took place. But before we talk about that, I just want to look to your left and see the old synagogue again from the front. Okay, so this is the old synagogue. During World War II, the Nazis looted it. They used it as an ammunition storage dump, facility. There's history as well. Back in the 1790s, 1794, famous Polish revolutionary Kazimierz Neighborhood made a speech here talking about freedom and rights. Very much ahead of his time. It was symbolic because it was in the Jewish neighborhood. He was not a Jew. He was a Polish Catholic. Kazimierz actually was in the American Revolution as well in the 1770s and 80s. That's the old synagogue. And this wall back over here was where 30 Poles were executed in 1943 by the Nazis. So, anyway, Nazis did a number on this, on the Poles and the Jews. This is Soroka Street, very familiar. And we're going to walk up to look at a couple of places. The first place here on the right is the Hotel Esther. Hotel Esther is named after Esterka. Esterka was a Jewish mistress of King Kazimierz. You got this one, Hotel Esther, and Hotel Ariel next to it. I've eaten at the Hotel Ariel 1. They have klezmer music in the evening. These two hotels, Esther and Ariel, are where Steven Spielberg and the other film crew stayed when they were here shooting Schindler's List in the early 1990s. He ate and lived here, and so sort of became the headquarters for the filming of Schindler's List. Most of these other tourist attractions down here, other restaurants, didn't exist back then because it was just after the communist times. So a number of scenes were shot in this area because it looked very historic. So you had a couple of places here that were hotels, but the rest of this at the time, very much not what you see today, with more restaurants and a Jewish restaurant cafe, which is kind of funny. None of these are owned by Jews, they're owned by Poles, but I saw a klezmer band in 2016 here, and the klezmer band is made up of all of Poles who love klezmer music, Jewish music. But they carry on the history and legacy of the Jewish community without the Jews largely being here. So it's interesting, just to put it mildly. Back here is closed right now. It'll be open up a little bit later today, but this is a synagogue. This is a synagogue that was built in the 1620s back here. A mural wall by a man named Wolf Popper. He was a wealthy Jewish merchant. The colorful Jewish themed mural back there. So, which is interesting. Right next to it Helena Rubinstein. Helena Rubinstein was one of the international cosmetics mogul. Hotel Rubinstein. This is 14. Even though it's not called Hotel Rubinstein is 2 doors down. This one's actually the home of Chez Helena. It says Helena was a very famous cosmetics person who lived in the 1870 to 1962. Long life. Yeah, famous people came from this area. All these restaurants do great business every night. Music. What we have at the end of this block is a little park memorial, little park monument to the 65,000 Jews that were killed. Only 15,000 of them lived in Kazimierz, but this is for all the Jews that died during World War II in Krakow, or around Krakow. You know, this neighborhood had 15,000 that died, but this was not erected until after the movie Schindler's List came out in 1993.